Hi, camera ready here at NAB 2019 at the Panasonic booth. We're speaking with Mitchell here. I'm talking about the EVA1 cinema camera, and Mitchell's going to be kind of filling us in on what's new and what's interesting about the camera.
Okay, so the EVA1 is a Super 35 camera with a 5.7K sensor in it, so that gives you a really rich 4K or HD image in the internal recording. It can do 4K up to 60 frames a second. It can do 2K up to 240 frames a second. So a lot of available variety that you can get out of that. It has 14 stops of dynamic range, so a very wide range of sensitivity, and a dual native ISO technology, which is something that is unique to Panasonic. It's proprietary technology of ours. So you can get 800 and 2500 as the two base exposures, and on either of those, you're at 14 stops of dynamic range. So it's not like gaining up where you get a lot of noise in the signal and stuff. 14 stops of dynamic range on either of those. You can always add gain or negative gain to either of those to manipulate the image the way you want, but those two base levels are a unique way that we give you versatility in the camera. It's like having two different film stocks that you can just load into the camera. It also has our V-Log mode, so you have access to all that exposure range, and the same color science as our Vericam line to give you a really cinematic look. Now, some of the new things that we've added to the camera recently is the ability to do your 4K in 60 frames a second in 10-bit now. So we added the HEVC H.265 codec. So in addition to the codecs we already have in the camera, that allows you to be in 10-bit all the way up to 60 frames a second. We also added something called Quick Switch. Quick Switch was something that our clients were asking for. There's so many adjustments and controls that are available in the camera, and rather than have to dive through the menus every time you wanted to change things, if you had two standard settings you might be switching between, people just wanted to quickly go between them. So a common one might be shooting in 4K at, say, 30 frames a second or 24 frames a second, and then you wanted to do a slow motion shot. You wanted to go 2K at all the way up at 240 frames a second. So rather than having to go into the system mode and then change what the resolution on the sensor was, and then change your codec and change a bunch of different things like that, you could preset that, and then it's just push one user button, little menu comes up saying which of these presets do you want to go to, you select it, and in really just a few seconds you've switched from one mode to another. So that's Quick Switch. You can program as many of those as you want. You have a little library of them. You save it on an SD card. You can save it on a cheap little SD card because it's not what you're recording to, it's just your scene files and your setup files. So you can just load that in and you can switch between whatever you might want to do. Maybe you're going from indoor to outdoor.